I need a few mental health days off work.
Yeah.
No, the antidote to burnout is called. There are some churches that have been pioneered in this nation that are so amazing that in their time were so cutting edge. They were pushing the envelope. They were doing things that no one else was doing.
What is the best way for a person without clarity to get clarity?
I'm sowing seed that I pray could be watered, that may, germinate and grow, and over the months or the years to come, bear good fruit in people's lives.
Welcome back to SPIL with SPIL, and really today we have a really special guest with us, Dr. Robi Sonderegger.
So cool. I'm looking forward to this discussion and chat with you.
Thank you so much for being on this small little podcast that we have.
Well, when your wife asked me to sit down and talk with you, and she obviously said you need help, and so I thought, I'm in town, whatever I can do to help. So here we are.
Why didn't we have a couch? I should be on the couch, Dr. Robi. I've got a confession to make.
Oh, I'm sure there's more than one.
I'm sure there's more than one. But I'm just gonna get Dr. Robi to introduce just briefly something about yourself for the audience to know before we go on.
As my name suggests, I'm a doctor in clinical psychology. My primary profession, however, is father to my 5 beautiful children. I am passionate about all things family and do a little bit of psychology and ministry on the side. So look, we work in primary areas of trauma, so natural disaster, areas of war, increasingly these days with survivors of human trafficking. But we are equally as passionate about taking psychology from the front line and bringing it to the home front. Because if we were to be honest, sometimes we look in over the neighbour's fence or listen in on the neighbour's apartment wall, and it sounds like a war zone or a disaster zone over there too. And so look, we all need to learn practical, life-changing skills to, put our lives in a good trajectory, to create the kind of legacy that's worth leaving behind so that generations that come after us can be positively impacted as well. So it's mental health is a really important topic for everyone.
That is so true. I mean, I think mental health really took a upward swing since COVID. It really opened up a lot of people's eyes about mental health. And I'm glad to say I think the churches are taking a little bit more, opening up their eyes to mental health a little bit. So today, I really want to start the topic with mental health. And on that note, my first question is, how do we reconcile Christians or how do we get out of that mindset as Christians that when we come to church, we have to put on a front that we're all put together, but we're not. And then when we go home, like you said, it's a war zone. I fight with my wife, I fight my kids, I fight with my dog, I fight with the bird that's singing in the morning. I fight everyone because I'm just angry or stressed, whatever it is. But then when we go to church, we have to put on this front. So how do we as Christians, and I don't think that's healthy, I don't think so. How do we as Christians really drop that persona and say, hey, this is me and this is real me, but still be accepted,
It's a great question. It may also be a cultural question because it's quite a prevalent thing, especially in the Asian countries and where we like to save face. We don't want to in any way cause either ourselves or our family shame by admitting that we have, whether it be relationship problems or habitual problems with addiction or even depression or anxiety. I mean, if I've got mental illness, that's often considered a shame, at least in older generations. But there's a bipolar swing on what you've just said. So yes, while on the one hand, we may present with the happy clappy front that everything's wonderful, and I'm just smiling through my pain, pretending until I go back home and then I let it all hang out. But on the other end of the spectrum, we've got a younger generation coming through the ranks now who do exactly the opposite, where everything is about my pathology.
It's true, though.
I am depressed. I am traumatized. And so we wear it like a badge of honor. And if there's nothing wrong with you, then what's wrong with you? It's like this totality, this irony, this. It's just a paradox. And hang on, no, there has to be a happy medium and a balance that says, well, yes, I might be human and I might make mistakes. Yes, I might have challenges, but who doesn't? Because the truth is, the only qualification that we need in order to experience some kind of hardship or adversity is simply to be born.
Yeah.
Like, no one is immune to the difficulties of life.
It's true.
So what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And when we ask that Swigert question, Swigert
Yeah.
is a classic Australian
Yeah.
acronym, Swigert, SWAIGDAI. So what are
Okay.
you gonna do about it is basically what we're saying here.
Right.
And so we're taking responsibility, acknowledging, okay, so this is where I am, but where do I want to go?
Yeah.
I can't always be looking back behind me from
Yeah.
all of the problems that I've gone through and experienced in my childhood and my
Yeah.
past, and the past betrayals and relationship breakdowns and mistakes that I've made, because the waves don't drive my boat.
Yeah.
It is the captain at the helm that determines where I'm going to go next. And so maybe, just maybe, I need to learn some life skills called navigation and steering and take this vehicle and vessel into a brand new territory.
Wow, that's good. I like how you mentioned that now these days in the younger generation, I don't know where I identify. Sometimes I identify old, sometimes I identify young. Whatever it is, in the younger generation, I do realize I am depressed. And then when you get to talking, you're experiencing a very sad moment because maybe your cat just died. You're 100% not depressed.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Or I think in Malaysia at least, I'm OCD.
Yeah.
Well, not really. You just like the plate in that way, but everything else in your life is totally fine. So how do we, especially as Christians, is it a language thing or is it an influence thing? How do we get out of it?
Well, great insight,
Yeah.
Pastor Isaac, because I would go so far as to say English is actually one of the few languages whereby we describe ourselves as both our feeling and our pathology.
Yeah.
So follow me here.
Yeah.
If you go to pretty much any other nation in the world
Okay.
and you say, I am hot, which we would classically say in English. In fact, we might even go so far as to say, I am so hot.
Yeah.
Well, if you went to Germany and said, I am so hot, people will laugh at you and think you got tickets on yourself. You think you're good.
Yeah.
Because in German, it's not ich bin heiß, I am hot. It would be ich habe heiß, I have hot. I am having a hot experience. It's not I am hot. No, I am experiencing heat. I have this, and so it's one arm's length removed from me. But
Right.
in our English language, we then take it up a notch and we go, I am depressed. I am anxious. I
Right.
am ADHD. Hi, my name is Robbie. I am an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Why in the world would we describe our identity as
Yeah.
our pathology?
Wow.
Because if you took the same approach with your physical health
Yeah.
and you introduced yourself to somebody and
Yeah.
said, hi, my name is Broken Leg,
Hello.
people would look at you and go, yeah, that's not all you got. There's something else that's not quite right there.
Yeah.
And so let's stop for a second
That's
and
true.
rethink what's going on with our language. Why would we describe ourselves? Because the truth is, we're none of those things. We are a child of God, we're a human being, and we
Yeah.
experience a lot of stuff. We may experience difficulty,
Yeah.
but we are not the difficulty.
Wow.
And so it's time life and death is in the power of the tongue.
That's true.
It's time we took responsibility for what comes out of our mouth. And all too often, out of the mouth, the heart speaks.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's a deeper issue. Maybe it's something insecurity or inferiority on the inside that is
Yeah.
causing me to speak in this particular way.
Right. That's so true. So I think, it used to really get to me when people say, I'm OCD, just because they like certain things a particular way. I'm like, no, you really are not, because if you were to get diagnosed as OCD, it's serious
Yeah.
stuff. So I think that really helps, that our identity is not the condition that we're going through. Our identity is rooted in something bigger, which in our case, Jesus Christ. And he defines us. It's just that we're experiencing sadness. We're experiencing a particular proclivity to arrange my plates and spoons in a particular way. Well, that's a great insight. Mental health is still a very taboo topic in Asia. How would you define burnout? And I'm asking this because I think these days, a lot of Christians are coming out and says, hey, I'm burnt out. And it's been used and thrown like it's Skittles, you know?
Yeah.
But when you really talk to the person, you're just physically tired. It's a long work week, a long family week, rest a week, and you come back and you're fine. You're not burnt out. So what is probably your definition of burnt out, and how do we as Christians, we probably avoid it?
Great question. And I think it's really great that we're being very careful with our language because, as you say, we throw words around, left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And if we do that, well, we actually discredit the meaning or the value of when the word matters. So it's a little bit like if I was to do an Asian accent or something like that, people go, hey, whoa, you can't do that. That's racist. Hang on, that's not racist. And so if we just call everything racist, then when we actually have racism, it doesn't hold its same value anymore.
Wow.
And so it's important that we are careful with our words and not just broad brush stroke everything is the same thing. And the same as with burnout.
Yeah.
And when it comes to burnout and I'm feeling exhausted,
Yeah.
well, maybe it is the beginning of burnout, or maybe you're just not very well organized and you have a mismanagement of time. Because the real definition of burnout is incompatibility between what I have and what I need. So if I have a certain amount of fuel in the vehicle and I've got a certain distance to go and I need this amount of fuel to get there and I don't have enough, I will not go the distance.
Yeah.
And so the vehicle will literally conk out. It will burn out. And so burnout is a nervous breakdown where my adrenal glands have literally been shot. And so it takes a period of time to recover. But the good news is that there's new research, and you're going to love this.
Okay,
There's new
I
research
totally
coming to bear where it shows burnout can happen relatively quickly. So when the wheels start falling off the wagon, the vehicle crashes quickly.
Yeah.
But it often takes, or at least has seen to be taking a long time to recover. So it is said you can burn out in a matter of weeks, but it could take up to a year or two to recover from that burnout.
Right.
Unless, of course, we were to renew our minds and look at this from a slightly different perspective and recognize, okay, if there's a mismatch between what I have and what I need and I don't have the resources, could there be a better allocation of the resources? Or could I use strategy to locate those resources, recruit those resources? And could I think in a different way? And what research has shown is if you start your morning every day with a 15-minute little life hack, you could actually make a recovery from burnout in as little as 3 weeks.
Wow.
So the little life hack, I'm sure everyone's like leaning in right now and turning up. Does anyone want to know?
Yeah.
Well, it's just 4 simple questions that we ask of ourselves every morning. And it starts with, so why am I here? Why am I showing up today?
Okay.
What is the motive or the purpose of me being here? Secondly, who is it that I want to be today? So who, in terms of the qualities or the characteristics that I want to embrace? I, for example, if I was answering this question today, I want to be a lifelong learner. I want to have a teachable spirit. I want to be humble enough to learn, because you're interviewing me as an expert in mental health. But I don't want to just be the one who's giving advice. I'm hungry to learn. I'm a lifelong student. And so I want to show up with humility to learn something. That's who I want to be today. And why I'm here might be to serve or to achieve a specific purpose. I'm sowing seed that I pray could be watered, that may germinate and grow, and over the months or the years to come bear good fruit in people's lives and indeed in the organization's life that you are a part of. And so I need to ask the next most important question. So what's already working? So it takes it from the negative of I can't do this and I don't have enough resource, I don't have enough energy and no one's on my side, and from the whinging, whining and complaining to, okay, but there's got to be stuff that is working. Let's identify that. And then the final question is just, what's one more thing I could do today that will help me take just one more step in the direction that I seek to go? And so those 4 questions, so to summarize, what am I doing here? Why am I here? What's already working? And what's one more thing I could do today that's just going to advance this cause, even if it's just one step closer to the goal? And those 4 things, start your day every day, just 15 minutes, and all of a sudden you gain clarity. So here is the key. The antidote to burnout is not self-care. It's not, I need a rest. It's
Okay.
not, I need a massage. I need to go
Okay.
to the spa.
Yeah.
I need a few mental health days off work.
Yeah.
No, the antidote to burnout is called clarity.
I'm going to think about that for a little, but that's good.
If you don't have
burn out
clarity,
'cause I don't have clarity.
yeah, if you don't have clarity, if you don't have that clear vision, you don't know where you're going,
Yeah.
then you're just spinning your wheels.
And because I'm spinning my wheels, I'm just doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I don't even know why I'm doing what I'm doing.
You're busy making lots and lots of motion, but no progress.
Right. So I'm busy but not effective. I'm busy but not efficient in what I'm doing. Wow. Mind blown. I love it. I'm processing it. As you can see it in my eyes. You know I'm processing it. You know I'm processing like, wow, that's good. I really like that. Clarity. And
Well, the Bible says, people
Yeah.
without vision perish. They cast off restraint. Like we don't know where we're going. Take the seatbelt off, and then when we crash, we'll absolutely get flung out of the vehicle.
Wow.
And so we need that vision in order to go the distance. And that's why we always say, if you've got the why, you can deal with any what. It doesn't matter what situation you are facing. If you've got the reason why, the purpose behind what you are doing, you will absolutely thrive and survive. That's why some people are able to be so resilient in the face of storms,
Yeah.
and others break a fingernail and go, I think I'm having a burnout.
Yeah.
And well, we just don't have clarity.
And what is the best way for a person without clarity to get clarity?
Well, it's really a great question, because it comes back down to those fundamental foundations of mental health and emotional well-being. In the last couple of days, we gave a seminar on this very topic, actually, where we talked about the foundational pillars of mental health. And
Okay.
most people know these. I mean, it doesn't take a doctor to tell you need to sleep well and eat well and exercise well and
Fair.
socialize well
Fair.
and even have good interactions in your thought process. Make sure that your mind is engaging in sober thinking.
Yeah.
Creative thoughts, constructive thoughts, helpful thoughts, not toxic thoughts, not untrue thoughts. And then even adversity is a pillar of mental health and emotional well-being, such that the struggles we face help us grow stronger.
Wow.
The wind that blows helps the tree roots grow deeper.
Yeah.
And so that tree becomes more stable. And if there's no rain, that's adversity as well. And so
Yeah.
the roots will go even deeper to search
Yeah.
water underground.
Yeah.
And so when a storm does come, those are the trees that stand. For the trees that get rain at the surface, well, I don't need to dig, roots. I just can be on the shallow surface. And when the wind blows, we just fall over. And so we're not resilient anymore. But here's the key. Even though we know all of these things, I know I should exercise.
Yeah.
Why didn't you this morning?
Yeah.
If I know that I should eat really well, why didn't you today?
Yeah.
And so we can justify, well, you don't understand, I had a really busy weekend, or, it was just a special occasion and I had to eat this. And we're full of great excuses. But the reason actually is because the foundation upon which the pillars stand is not stable. And that's why they fall.
Yeah.
And so if you've got a solid foundation, well, then your pillars are upright. You have now got the discipline to follow through with what you know you need to do. And those foundational pillars, or should I say the foundation elements, there are 3 of them.
Okay.
And it is identity, purpose, and worth.
Wow.
So you have to be able to ask and answer the questions: who am I? Why am I here? And what am I worth? And so if you can, so when you're talking about vision, how do you get that vision? Well, before you can ask the question about purpose, you have to know why you're here. And because otherwise we end up like the Israelites wandering in the wilderness, going circles around the place because we don't actually, we know there's a promised land out there somewhere, but we never made it. Why? Because we didn't truly understand who we were in Christ.
Wow.
And so when we discover that, and I know my identity, then I can discover the purpose that God has for my life. And if I've got the purpose, well, purpose is synonymous with vision.
Yeah.
And now I know why I'm here. And then when you know that, well, purpose combined with vision can create incredible value. Now you can make a valuable contribution to the world around you. And value is the same as worth, by the way. And self-worth is the same as self-esteem, by the way. And self-esteem is the pathway to self-confidence, by the way.
Wow.
So you want to get confident, you want to have that vision, you're going to go the distance, start with the foundations.
Wow. And I think as Christians, I hear you. So we've got to like get our foundations right. We got to exercise, eat well, sleep well, talk well, think well, read well, whatever it is. We got to do all that.
The pillars,
At some point, at which point, because I think I'm going to assume, okay, so whoever's listening, I'm assuming, okay, I'm not saying this is you, but I'm assuming that a lot of us, we don't like to do these good things. Naturally, who likes to exercise?
Yeah, we know we should.
Who likes to eat well, right?
We just
We're
don't.
drinking sugar water right now, right? Fruit, sugar water, right? Who likes to eat well? So we relegate that responsibility to God and say, God, you have to give me my purpose and my vision and my why am I here? And if you don't give it to me, I'm lost and it's not my fault, it's your fault, it's God's fault. How fair is that statement?
Well, look, when it comes to mental health, people often ask the question, to what degree are mental health issues or mental illness psychological, and what portion is spiritual? And I've been working in this arena for 3 decades now, and I've come to the conclusion, more and more I should say, that it's almost all spiritual. Wow. Now, there is, of course, an element at the biological root level, but for the rest of it, if you're talking psychological versus spiritual, it's almost all spiritual, but just not in the way in which people think.
Okay.
So people often go, so schizophrenia is hearing voices, that's demonic, right?
Demonic,
And depression is like, you've got a spirit, just like, we read David and Saul, and the spirit came upon him, so it's really a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what I'm referring to, and even though that may be the case, what I'm actually referring to when I say spiritual is, show me the quality of your relationship with Father God, and I'll show you the quality of your mental health.
Wow.
And so even though we can make excuses, I know what I should do, and God, I can shake my fist at you and blame you for not giving my... God's like, I already gave it to you right at the very beginning.
There we go.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you in the garden, and I'm going to give you an instruction. I want you to work this, but I want you to subdue it. I want you to multiply. I want you to take dominion. I want you to take charge. Like, this is yours.
Yes.
So be a wise steward, take over, and then in the context of our relationship with God, it's that we are purposed to glorify him, to worship him. And not only that, but he's given us gifts and skills and talents. He says, I want you to be just like me. And God speaks the language of generosity. And so when we make now a purposeful contribution to others, so when we give, when we operate into that same space, it doesn't have to be the defining purpose of my life that I achieved like a pinnacle on the mountain that I planted my flag in. No, daily today, who are the people that I'm coming across, and am I purposed to love them? Am I purposed to reach out and love them as I love my God? Love God with all of your heart, mind, and soul, and love people in exactly the same way. If you are shaking your fist at God saying, you should have given your my purpose, why didn't you get... Nah, already did. You just didn't do it yet.
Right. Wow. Come on. That's right to the heart of like literally every Christian out there. But that's so true. I'm gonna take a bit of a segue, and I'm gonna shift lighthearted a little bit.
Okay, good.
Which country has better food, Australia or Malaysia? You've traveled everywhere. So I'm gonna give you some time to think about it. You traveled everywhere. You've been to a lot of nations in the world. But firstly, Malaysia, Australia.
Well, Australia is a land of immigrants, and so we can have food from around the world. And the closest thing we've got to real Aussie food is the cracker Aussie meat pie. And so yes, we do love a good old meat pie with tomato sauce or what we call dead horse on top. But that's about it, and it's not the healthiest, and it's not sophisticated. It's not elegant in any way.
Okay.
And so when you come to Malaysia, oh man, like the food here is to die for.
Yeah.
I got introduced like 20 years ago to Duntat. Oh, it is my kryptonite. I go weak at the knees, and so I need an accountability partner to say just one a day, because otherwise I will eat the entire tray.
Okay.
And so I love the food in this part of the world, and especially when it's a little bit spicy just
you like spicy?
Love spicy.
Just found out.
Yeah.
So good. I'm going to give you a more controversial one.
All right.
You go to Singapore a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Malaysia, Singapore, food-wise.
That's a difficult question.
It is.
I think it depends where you go, because if you go to the market areas here, oftentimes you get authentic Malay food, which the Bahasa style, because there's a lot of crossover between Indonesia and Malaysia, I find anyway.
It's true.
And I love that kind of food. But when you go into the inner city and upmarket Singapore, there is a level of sophistication. And so you can go into KL and you can get some Peking duck.
Yeah.
But then you can go into Singapore and you can get some apple wood smoked Peking duck, where the wood has been imported from Beijing itself. And there's a level of sophistication there that's just probably a notch ahead. So it depends. It's horses for courses. What's on the menu tonight? What's the cuisine? And so
wow.
Yeah.
Great answer. Great answer. Are you used to the tropical climate yet? Because in Australia and everything, the weather's a little different there.
I love Asia and I love Asian cultures and languages.
Yeah.
I can't speak very well, but I feel when I'm in Asia, it doesn't matter where I am, I feel like I'm at home. I probably feel more comfortable here than I do in Australia. I feel like a fish out of water in Australia.
Why though?
I think probably because I live such an international life where I'm on the road so much in various different nations around the world that coming back to Australia or where I live, sleepy little, country town, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's just very basic, and the mindset of people can be quite insular or local. That this is all we can see and all we do. We never travel, further than an hour away.
Okay.
And whereas I just flew in from London or from Russia or from Singapore or from Mongolia or from Africa and so I love Asia.
Oh.
And
Asia loves you. Asia loves you.
Thank you. I feel at home here. You are my people.
Oh, and same. Okay, because you've been everywhere, I just kind of want to narrow it down to Malaysia, Australia, your home, and this is your second home now. What do you have to say about the comparison of the spiritual climate of both countries? I'm interested. I'm not saying this is not a which is better thing, because we all belong to Jesus, but what is the sensing of the spiritual climate in Malaysia and Australia?
That's a really tricky question for me to answer, because I am friends with so many pastors and I serve so many churches and organizations in both nations.
But if you're not comfortable, we don't have to. If you don't have to, I can move.
Let me answer safely.
Okay.
To say both nations need a shift.
Good.
And a shift not in the right direction, but in the kingdom direction. And so my answer is not judgmental that one is better than the other or one is right or wrong or that we, I mean, we've all got room for improvement.
Of course.
But I don't want to ever throw stones at the bride of Christ.
Yes, of course.
And because this is his radiant bride without spot or blemish or wrinkle that he sees. And so I want to look at the church in that way, yet at the same time recognize I am the church.
Yeah.
So I'm not standing outside looking in, I'm looking inside, looking out. How can we, the church, honor our groom even better? How can we be even more kingdom-minded? And I think, and I'm just going to put this on the table here because it probably needs to be said.
Okay.
The old alpha dog, especially male-driven, build my kingdom church leader, that thing has got to die.
Right.
It's got to die.
Amen.
Because that right there, especially the next generation, if you want to reach the next generation, they couldn't care less about you and your brand and your kingdom, or how many people you have in your congregation, or how many campuses you have in your church network. Can you just stop talking about yourself for half a second? Because what I'm interested in is authenticity, transparency, vision, and community. And if you don't have those things and your only vision is about expansion and expansion of yourself or your church or your congregation, and you can claim it, all righteously, oh, we're expanding it for God's kingdom and people are coming to the Lord. Yeah, well, that's good and well. I'm not here standing in judgment of it. But if we're going to reach the next generation, it's got to be more than just about the organism called church. We got to look beyond the four walls of the church and ask the question, how are we having an impact on our community?
That's so
and if we're not reaching the next generation, then we are a graying aging, dying church.
Wow.
And I want to have the kind of bride when then Jesus comes back,
Yeah.
where he goes, wow, you are young, you are
Yeah.
vibrant, you are good
Yeah.
looking, and you are full of golden
Yeah.
character on the inside,
Come
full of vision.
Wow. That's a great answer. Because I think at least the spiritual climate in the churches in Malaysia now, there is a little bit of a shift, in my opinion. The first shift would be, I think in Malaysia at least, I can only speak for Malaysia, that I think the Malaysian churches, we're starting to find our, not just a national voice, I think we're starting to find our global voice a little bit more.
Come on.
Because, for example, I think Indonesia and Singapore too, I think, has led the way. By that I mean, Indonesia has released a lot of Christian albums.
Yep.
And they've produced a lot of great preachers in Indonesia. And I think Singapore the same. They're cutting albums, they're cutting new songs, and a lot of great preachers from Singapore. And when I say great preachers, it means influential. So they influence a lot of people. And I think the Malaysian church, we've followed a lot. We've always looked to England. We've always looked to Australia for a lot of time. Yeah. And now we've shifted a little bit to America a little bit. And really recently, we're shifting our gaze to Indonesia and Singapore to see what God is doing there, which is amazing. So I think Malaysia is starting to find her voice that, we have talents, that we can produce our own song. We can produce a great podcast. Look at these people. We don't always have to tune into...
So good, yes.
So to me, I think God is trying to raise... Like, I see Malaysia as like a child that we're mature, so now, but maybe we're going to teenage years. And God is saying, hey, teenager, now it's your turn. You can produce. You have got talents too, So, I mean, that's how I feel about the Malaysian spiritual climate. Yeah, that's me.
Look, when I look at church, especially in Malaysia, we can look at it and say it's in its infancy growing up, or we can say it's actually coming full circle. It's in its aged years that it needs to come full circle and enter back into its infancy. It needs to be youthful and dynamic again.
Yeah.
And in order for that to happen, you have to look at the heritage of the church in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And there are some churches that have been pioneered in this nation that are so amazing, that in their time were so cutting edge. They were pushing the envelope. They were doing things that no one else was doing.
Yeah.
They were pioneering in innovative ways, so much so that they grew to be so influential in the nation.
So good.
But what tends to happen is when you've built something amazing,
Yeah.
then you shift from pioneer mode into protection mode.
Right.
And now we've got to keep it so
Yeah.
that it doesn't get destroyed, so that it doesn't get dismantled, or doesn't fall apart. And so the moment we try and protect the monument we have built, we no longer are moving forward. We're stagnant.
Wow.
And so what we need to do is ask the question, am I a protection church or am I a pioneering church? And it comes down to the leadership model. So I'm either a leader or I'm a manager.
Yeah.
And when you're a manager, you're like a government department. You've got overlords that give you a budget, and you have to manage that budget wisely. You have to be a good steward with what you've got, and we do the best to our ability.
Yeah.
But there are overlords that will say, no, you can't do that, and no, you can't do that, and we've got checks and balances to make sure. And so we call it good governance.
Yeah.
But if you are going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to pioneer something, if you're going to build a company, let's just call it, Apple, for example, and pioneer a phone that doesn't have any buttons on it, you need a governance council that is a brains trust who will be spurring you on to think outside the square, not to protect what we've built, this Macintosh, this laptop, this desktop, should I say, computer, and let's preserve that so as to make sure that we stay in the industry. No, we've got to pioneer again. Now, I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong. They're just different models, and they have different reasons and different purposes, and maybe even different callings.
Of course.
But we do have to ask ourselves the question: am I a leader or am I a manager? Because if I'm a leader, then I'm not going to stick to budgets that I've been given. I'm going to ask the question: okay, so what do we need in order to do the vision that God is calling us to do? And whatever that number is irrespective, because our God is the owner of the cattle on 1,000 hills. So the moment I start becoming stingy and I start looking at the cost of things, just got a poverty mindset going on. I need a kingdom mindset. The more generous the church, the more successful the church.
Yeah.
And all too often we think, oh no, the church is generous because they're successful.
Yeah.
No. They became successful because they had a kingdom mindset where money does not matter.
Wow.
Where rather there are more important things. Meaning is what matters.
Wow.
And so how do we cultivate more meaning?
So good. And if you don't mind, I love your leader or a manager analogy. But if you don't mind, I'm going to add one more.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Bring it.
So I think the next generation now, at least, okay, I speak for Malaysia, the next generation in Malaysia, the leaders of the churches, it's true. Some churches we fall under more leadership. Some churches we fall under more managerial. But I think externally, because this is a very internal thing, I think we're also looking to be a lot more collaborative. Now, I don't know about outside Malaysia, but I think that churches in Malaysia are starting to wake up to see that we built our church great. We should keep doing that because, we have to build the church. But I can tap on to what you do well.
Yes.
And I can tap onto what you do well, and you can tap onto what I do well. And I think, if I can share my heart, I'm beginning to pray into how can we as a church collaborate that way. And I don't know, I'm trying to lean on your experience because you've been everywhere. Like, for example, if my church is good at A, but I'm bad at B, but your church, whether big or small, you're good at B, bad at A, I'm going to lean onto your strength, which is B, and say, can you help me at B? Can I send some of my people to you to help? And then you lean on my strength, which is A. Does that church model exist in countries that you've been to?
Yes, but largely for campaigns.
Right.
So collaboration is great when you need to go into battle. The kings will gather and we will fight together as one. And where there's unity, God commands a blessing.
Amen.
But when that battle or campaign has come to an end, when the victory has been assured, who's going to be king? Because then if there's multiple kings trying to govern the same land, then it falls apart. And so we go back to our own territories and we say, we want to stay in great relationship with you, but we don't want to be you or control you. And that's why I love when churches pioneer a new church or a church plant. But then they don't necessarily say, okay, so you need our branding, our logo, we're going to control you. No, we're not controlling you. What we're doing is we're empowering you. We're setting you up and releasing you. We're sending you out and we're cheering you on. And we are your place where you can come back to as the well where you can drink and be refreshed, and then we'll send you back out again. Or we are your safe place to fall, so that if you're in difficulty or if you're struggling in these particular areas that you're not so good in, just like you said, then we can pitch in. And that's another great collaboration model where we're working in unity but not controlling or competing with one another, which I think is what the church has largely become in recent decades, but the shift has already begun.
Wow. I like that. I have two more questions in my head. When we talk about growing the church, building the church, I think coming out of COVID, perhaps if I could generalize the church, the global church's leadership, we focus a lot on trauma and church hurt. And I think a lot of people have now come up and voiced their trauma, whatever happened in church, or church hurts, and some cases rightly so. So if there is a financial abuse, a sexual abuse, and they come out traumatized from it, and we've got to heal the church hurt, I think that's fair. But I think sometimes, now correct me if I'm wrong, that small percentage, or whatever the percentage is, of that real trauma, the rest of the church goes, I'm gonna borrow that word, and now we're all traumatized, right? So if I don't like what the leader says, you just traumatized me. I don't like where we're going. I don't like the change. I don't like the preaching or the worship songs or whatever it is. It's a traumatic experience for me, and now I'm hurt, and now you got to heal me. And how do we get out of that?
Well, it's like my favorite question of the day.
Is it? Okay, it's a complicated question. Please rephrase it to make it simpler.
It's such an important question because otherwise we're looking for ways to not just navel gaze, but scratch our own rash. And the thing is, itching the rash doesn't make the rash go away. It, however, does feel good in the moment that we're scratching it. But you scratch the rash, you just make it more angry.
Yeah.
And so the more you ruminate and the more you have a voice for my hurt and my, I've been unjustly dealt with, and, this pastor or this church or this system or this institution or whatever it is biased against it. Well, the more you nurse, curse, and rehearse all of the bad things, then you're doing exactly the opposite of what Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 has asked you to do. Meditate on the things that are right and pure and good and just. Why? Because if you do, there's a little promise tucked away in verse 7 that says, and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your heart and mind. In other words, there's a protection there. And so what is it that we're focusing on?
Wow.
Are we focusing on the hurt, which is looking at the waves, where we've come from, or are we determined to look forward and ask the question, where do I want to go next?
Wow.
And that victim mindset is so toxic, in these circles, that if somebody genuinely is hurt, or if they've genuinely been traumatized, then yes, there's a time and a place to go face that fear. But it's a fear that needs to be faced.
Yeah.
And so I've got to overcome, notice the word.
There we go.
Not cope with, not manage, not scratch the rash,
Good
not
point.
whinge, whine, and complain. I need to overcome.
Good point.
So if there is a hurdle in my way, I need to face up to that hurdle, face the fear, go back to that pastor, have a face-to-face, extend forgiveness, do what's required to do so that I can let go of my hurt, pain, bitterness, and move on. So if I'm just nursing, cursing, and rehearsing all of the time, it's about time that I stopped, I reversed it, I dispersed it, and I immersed it in the love of Jesus. That is what I need to do. Take responsibility, move forward. Enough of this whinging, whining, and complaining.
I totally resonate. I love it because we are not called to be a body of Christ of victims. We're called to be a body of Christ of victors.
And it's not to minimize anyone's experience. For people who are listening, going, I've been really hurt, and you've just, that may be the case.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do with it? Swagadai. Swagadai. So what are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do with it?
Nurse, curse, and rehearse it? Continue to sit in the puddle of tears that you are? Or is it time to get out of the gutter, dust yourself off, and sit enthroned?
Yeah.
Quote, unquote, Jeremiah. Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
What do you want to do with it?
Yeah.
Like, because one's going to get you closer to a solution, but the other will not get you closer to a solution. It's your choice.
Wow. I think sometimes I may be wrong, but when I sense what God is trying to do to the churches in the world, is perhaps He's revealing a part of the church that we've not taken dominion over. And by that I mean there is a fear that has gripped the church. Now, you please feel free to disagree with me, that we're a bit more timid to voice it out. So, for example, obviously in Malaysia, there's a lot of regulations, which is fine, that Christians shouldn't voice out this, shouldn't evangelize here, shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that, which is okay. But I think sometimes in the Church of Malaysia, we've gotten to this bubble and we live in that fear to say, okay, I'm now defined by this fear because I can't do it. And when I see the global church, I go, okay, I think the extreme left voice has been so strong that sometimes it paralyzes the church. Like we're so afraid to use a misnoun or mispronounce a noun or whatever it is, or we're afraid to talk about sexuality or gender, and all this has become a border that we as Christians we can't touch. Do you think it's accurate to say that the churches need to be bolder, to fight it, and to come up against it, which they would then react and they will fight us? Or how should the Christian respond to this fear, not giving in to the fear, but not being Bible bashing? Do you get my question?
Absolutely,
Sorry, it's a long
absolutely.
question.
Yeah,
I'm trying to phrase my thoughts.
It's a tricky one too. I've got friends on both sides of the equation.
Yeah.
People who are like, we need to speak up more, and we need to campaign, and we need to, match the level and the energy that, the progressive, woke, ideological, whatever it might be that they're suggesting. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum that we need to be wise and we need to be, gentle as a dove, that kind of thing. But I would suggest that we would need to go back to what we spoke about earlier. Who am I? Why am I here?
So good.
And what am I worth? In other words, what's the value that I bring to the table? Because you as a church might be called to address that particular topic and speak up, because that's the hill that you're going to die on. Whereas if I was to speak up on a particular topic that's going to cop a lot of, cover fire, if you will, and now people are shooting at me over here, I'll be distracted with a battle that is keeping me from doing what I'm actually called to do. So who am I, and what's my purpose here? What's the vision of our church? And so if it lends towards advancing us getting closer to the vision, bring it on. We should be as loud as a trumpet, but not necessarily fighting against. What are we fighting for? What are we actually advancing? And so if we're reaching in to the gates of hell to pull out coals out of the fire, hey, it's definitely a cause worth pursuing. But I think that Jesus has set us free, not just from something, but also for something and to do something. What's your vision?
So good. Now I want to end with this last question. How can the church show love to a group of people that really speaks against the church, perhaps either left ideology or extreme right ideology, either extremes, and they're very loud? They may be small in percentage, but they're very loud, they're very aggressive. How can the church show them love to say, hey, we may not agree on abortion or gender or vaccination, but let's talk, let's have a conversation, and let's have a meal, rather than the hostility between the two sides? How can we as a church show that?
Talking about the problem is not always the solution. And when people have got their heels dug right in, it doesn't matter what you say, because a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. And so in the same way as in marriage, if you've got some problems, talking about the problems doesn't necessarily solve or resolve those problems. And sometimes people go, well, we've got irreconcilable differences. Well, most marriages have irreconcilable differences, and they continue to thrive. That's not an excuse. So the bigger, better question that we need to be asking ourselves as we step into this space, once again, coming back to who am I? Why am I here? And what am I worth? And so rather than being against anyone or fighting them, how can I just continue getting on with what I am called to do? Let me give you an example of this. So there's a campaign against a particular fast food store, which everyone will probably know about now in America. It's only in America. And, they have this particular campaign for their staff where they don't work on a particular day of the week, and Kanye West even sings about it.
There we go.
And so when it came to LGBTQ protests, because this is a Christian-run organization that they give their workers a Sabbath off on a weekend. So when it came to protesting, let's protest the Christians, and this is a Christian organization. And so with placards out there, we hate this particular. What did the organization do? Just sent out free burgers and drinks to the people who were standing in the hot sun to keep them hydrated and keep them fed so they can continue their protest. So we're not stopping the protest, we're ignoring the protest, and we're getting about our business while loving on them. And so all of the photos that ended up across the world in the print media had these protesters holding up signs, "We hate you," while eating your product and drinking your drink. And so God takes care of his own. Let's just get about the business that we've been called to do, and God will take care of the rest.
Amen. And with that, thank you so much for all your insights. I think some questions will help the body of Christ. Some questions will help me personally.
And some questions will stir up some complaints. And so please write in to Pastor Isaac at idon'tcare.com.
But it's true. How can people get some of your resources? Maybe we'll end with that one. I want to learn more from you. How do I get some of your resources?
We got a whole bunch of stuff online on the drrobi.com website. So it's drrobi.com. And you can avail yourself of a whole suite of resources. For any church that wants to gain access to all of these resources and make them freely available to their congregation members, that URL is peoplecare.global. And I hope and pray that it will be a blessing to many.
Amen.
All the proceeds, by the way, are donated to charity.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Robi. Really appreciate your time.
God bless.
God bless you.
Thank you for tuning in to SPIL. Subscribe and follow us on our social media platforms for more updates.